particularly around how to talk to girls. Maybe you can share with the audience a little bit about that little story.
Yeah, tech bros are like super nerdy, and then when you're like talking to a girl, you get like super nervous and stuff. So that's the same thing with me. So
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Anyreach Roundtable, where we explore how AI is transforming the way we work. Today's series is Meet the Team, where we explore the experts at Anyreach that are building the transformative nature of agentic AI. I'm your host, Richard Lin, CEO of Anyreach, and today's guest is Karthik, CTO here at Anyreach. Karthik, it's great to have you.
great. Thank you so much, Richard. Yeah, like super excited how this whole podcast is gonna go, and we're gonna like bring out a bunch of stories that are untold stories of Anyreach through this. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we have a lot of stories we share privately, but now the world can know.
Some of them, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, don't disclose everything, but no, I'm kidding. All right, so for our audience, obviously they're just learning about you, but it'd be great for you to share your background, your experience, just so the audience can get to know you a little bit better.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So Karthik, so been building voice agents since 8 years. So back in 2017, when I first came to know that you can create machines that that can talk like humans, I got like super excited, and then sort of this journey started in Bangalore, India, South India. So yeah, it was crazy, just trying to like make, back then we used to try to make flight reservation systems with voice. It was like,
Mm.
till now it's a challenging problem. So started off with that, with several stints, several companies, still trying to create that more and more human like AI. Yeah.
Got it, got it. Well, that funny story you shared with me about how you got into voice, particularly around how to talk to girls. Maybe you can share with the audience a little bit about that little story.
Yeah. So I mean, like, see, we all like, I mean, all the tech bros are like super nerdy, and then when you're like talking to a girl, you get like super nervous and stuff. So that's the same thing with me. So so like back in 2017, when I was like, hey, you know what, like, how do I like start off the conversations? How do I need to be sounding and like just get more comfortable breaking ice and stuff? I was
Mhm.
like, why can't we just do it with the AI? Okay, so started off with chatbots, then voice bots for that, and then I was like, hey, this is not human-like enough, and then
Mhm.
kept iterating. So, but then that was a crazy way to like channelize energy. Yeah, like, hey, can't we just make this whole stuff sound more human? Like sometimes we just
Mhm.
feel like talking to a human. So, yeah, so this should be another way, like
Yeah.
think of a 1000x better version of voicemail that we have of people today is what I think
Mhm.
will be the future. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's an interesting problem because I'm sure, half the world's population has that as an issue. Maybe that's the next Anyreach idea. Um, but, as you mentioned, you kind of got into AI voice in 2017, and I'm sure there's been a lot, obviously I know quite a bit about your background at Alexa, working at, open source LLM models and teams like Nexus Flow.
Yeah.
Can you maybe tell the audience a little bit more about your journey in your career and kind of how you got here?
Yeah, sure, yeah. So back in like 2017, we had these you know models like long short-term memory networks, LSTMs, and there used to be like
Mm.
Cambridge used to be pretty good at dialogue systems research, and even Carnegie Mellon, where I did my master's, was also at the top front of this field. So we had like different type of toolkits, and we were like struggling to just figure out like, hey, what is the user's intent and what they're trying to say, and couple
Mm.
of keywords from what they're trying to say, and then trigger some API calls. This itself was like a super hard problem, like just figuring it out. And
Mm.
then that was my first internship back in 2017 at Ibisu Tech. This was like you can think of an early version of Anyreach. We have tried this several times. Pretty happy that we are actually able to deploy and do a lot of impactful things this time. This is not a dream that it's the first time this happened. Like several times, several founders have tried to build this type of pretty human-like agents and take it across. So started off with that, and then I was initially working just on text, And then I realized quickly that, hey, to create human-like conversations, text is not enough. So
Mm.
like understanding emotions is like super key. And then started delving into like emotion recognition, emotion understanding. So that was like one area that at Robert Bosch, I got an
Mm.
opportunity to work on stuff like, hey, how do you detect if two people are having a conversation inside the car and then they are getting into a fight? How do you just alert the system? Like basically, if the driver is being, pretty bad to you and arrogant to you, like how would you like have a way to like report the driver, like even without, because mostly people don't talk about these things, like they would be like, yeah, this driver was pretty bad, and then that's it. But then there should be a way to like rate and automatically monitor your chauffeur while maintaining privacy. So you're
Mm.
trying to build some sort of edge machine learning techniques on mobile that understands the emotions. That was one aspect. And then there's another opportunity. I was working with Mercedes Benz. So with
Mm.
Mercedes again, like because people are paying so much for the product, so you want to give them top-notch contact center experience. So we were trying
Mm.
to like rate the sentiment of each and every call that was coming in. So that was another stint of doing emotion-related aspects in speech. That I was like super excited. I was like, hey, the day this stuff actually works, I might just retire. I was like, dude, if you can give AI emotions, like, wow, that's
Mm.
gonna be like super super amazing. And then like yeah, a lot of iterations of research in that space. And then in between, I also had a chatbot startup that was helping people like discover menu, and like if you go to a restaurant, like how do you know what are the dishes being sold? So that was like
Mm.
one of the use cases that I was tapping into because of my experience of running a restaurant. So that's like one of my first entrepreneurial stint was like just running a restaurant like with my brother.
Wow.
And I used to talk to about 400 people every day. And a lot of
Mm.
them used to like come back because they liked, talking to me, or like the way I was, navigating, making them try new things. I was like, hey, how do I clone myself?
Mm.
Because I did hire a bunch of people, and I tried to onboard them the same way that I talk. I said, hey, you just don't let them eat french fries, man, they're never going to come back. Okay, you need to make them eat something that's unique to the restaurant. So how do you navigate these conversations? So as you can see, through different roles, I was like, how do you clone like the best of the human, so that
Mm.
people only have the best experiences while communicating to a business. And you know
Right.
so that's been the journey through all different type of companies. And so more recently, I realized that you can never classify emotions.
Mm.
After working on this company, after working for so many different companies on emotion recognition, I just realized, hey, this is complete stupidity, man. Like there is no
Mm.
way that humans don't classify on in their head that, oh, this guy is angry, oh, this guy is excited, or
Mm.
they don't try to put labels. They just understand context and start speaking.
Mm.
So this was one of the key things that was part of my research at Carnegie Mellon, where we were doing research related to speech LLMs back in
Mm.
like 2021, 2022. So similar to something like what you see ChatGPT voice mode. So this was like the foundational work for building such type of models. And yeah, so it was pretty
Yeah.
exciting to see the initial results there. And yeah, hope people can start experiencing that through any reach agents. Yeah.
Right, right. And you brought up a really interesting kind of topic about cloning yourself. I think as business owners, entrepreneurs, and so forth, that's seems to be kind of the common theme. Like there's just not enough time in the day, and it's like, how do I make myself into in a factory of myself so I can get more done? So I think we are getting closer to there. Obviously with where AI is going,
Yeah.
with voice, with reasoning models, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
But you mentioned some of the opportunities that kind of came your way post your CMU education, where you're at Alexa and then at a company called Nexus Flow. Can you maybe talk a little bit more about
Yeah,
your time
yeah,
there?
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So when I was at CMU, we were trying to build the skill into Alexa to help people cook at home.
Mm.
One of the interesting things when you move to the States from India is like suddenly you don't have house help and stuff, and you need to cook and you need to do all this stuff yourself. And then there's this opportunity to just give Alexa the skill that, hey, I want to cook this dish, and Alexa guides you through that.
Mm.
So a bunch of CMU researchers, we were trying to give the skill into Alexa. We were iterating. Of course, it was like super hard to make it a pretty good human like experience.
Mm.
And then I was like, speech recognition is of Alexa could be much better. And then I was like, hey, how do I improve that? Because through
Mm,
this research at CME, I didn't get access to the speech aspect of Alexa. And
mm,
then I got an opportunity to go work in Seattle with the team to improve their core speech recognition capability. So I don't know if
mm,
you guys had an experience where you tried asking Alexa to play a less popular artist, and
mm,
then it tries to pick out another artist which sounds who is a little more popular, and then sounds similar, and just start playing that song instead of the actual
mm,
artist that you asked it to play. So that was one of the research on like speech rescoring, like how do you improve speech recognition on rare words. So that
mm,
was my research at Alexa. It's doing that. And then post CMU, we know like in 2022 ChatGPT happened, and
mm,
suddenly most ML researchers lost respect. They were like, hey, if ChatGPT is there, like what do we even need? I think everything is solved. And then I was like, wait, is that true? We need to first evaluate what's happening in this space.
right.
And then I took up a pretty hard problem related to medical coding. So that was
Mm,
my first experience. Where even our chief analytics officer, Jason, was working with me there. So yeah, so we're trying to do like your doctor's notes to like medical code conversion using LLMs,
mm,
and something similar to how we do at Anyreach. Like we are trying to do it in a safe and a manner in which like all the tasks that are done using AI is just 100% accurate. So
mm,
that was like a year-long effort in trying to take all that sort of confusing doctor's notes and make it happen. And I think we were one of the first teams to like crack a decent amount of automated medical coding,
mm,
end to end using LLMs. That was 1 year. And then I was like super excited about one thing, that how was ChatGPT actually created, right? Like there was
mm,
one thing that researchers didn't understand was how do you do reinforcement learning with LLMs, right?
mm,
I think a lot of people here who are listening to the podcast have heard of RLHF, the reinforcement learning from human feedback, right?
mm,
Like people use this terminology, they just throw it out. But I
mm,
would say like 90% of researchers have never done RLHF on, like by hand. It's only
right.
like a dream point that, yeah, we should use RL, we should take human feedback. I'm like, how do you exactly do it? And
Mm,
also, like, I was kind of curious, can't we beat ChatGPT? Is it like such an impossible task? Like, is it not possible to for open source to catch up with it? So that's where like I got this opportunity to start working with UC Berkeley researchers at Nexus Flow. It's a bunch of PhDs and postdocs from UC Berkeley and Stanford. And then we
mm,
got onto this like, hey, we are gonna take a small LLM, like a 7 billion, thing. That time it was a Llama 2 7 billion parameter model, and then we are going to like post train it, and then we are gonna
mm,
get like training data from all other LLMs, humans, synthetic data, all different concepts, and then
mm,
make it better than ChatGPT 3.5. So several iterations, several sleepless nights of training jobs, and then boom, like Starling Beta was one of the first models to have like was I think better than ChatGPT 3.5 on chat tasks on the chatbot arena leaderboard. Yeah, so
mm,
we had like crazy number of downloads. I think we had like more than 5,000 to 10,000 model downloads, every week, and it had like crazy impact with and super happy that we democratized the idea of how do you do RL from human feedback. So it was one of the first open source models that went through this algorithm called PPO, right?
mm,
The proximal policy, optimization, and that was crazy in terms of the output that it could get. And then Claude happened. We were like, dude, okay, shit. We just started catching up with ChatGPT, and then Claude 3.5 Sonnet was so crazy in all these tasks, and we were
mm,
like, it almost felt like so much impossible to catch up with it. But then
mm,
we created several type of environments where the LLM agent could, like like for example coding questions, right? Like a lot of engineers, they do lead code and stuff, like, so
mm,
we gave those tasks to the model that, hey, can you answer through this lead code problem, right? And then based on the answers, we wrote like automatic test cases, and then
mm,
executed that and gave the feedback to the model that, hey, these test cases passed, test cases didn't pass. And then we
mm,
realized with about 2,000, 3,000 data points of really hard problems, we were able to like get a model that started getting state of the art performance on coding benchmarks. And I
Mm.
was like, I started feeling weird after some time that the model that I created was much better in coding than even me. I had to start using it to like start doing rest of the work. I was like, oh shit, this
Right.
stuff is like catching up crazy in terms of like coding. So
Yeah.
that was like the Athene and the Athene V2 model, and
Mm.
that's when I realized, hey, this stuff is like, as long as you have the right data, you can do amazing things.
Mm.
It's like, how do you get the right data for every single business and use case?
Mm.
And that was the starting thought towards Anyreach. I was like, hey, it's everything's data. So you want to do a data centric company, and the
Mm.
data should come from humans. It should not only be about, I don't know if a lot of people might have read about this research that's happening with LLMs are consuming more and more LLM generated data, you know.
Right.
So, so what's happening with recent updates in LLM models is like most of the content outside of the web is generated by LLMs, and
Right.
training on that is like making these models go mad. They're
Right.
losing it. It's like they don't have that level of gold quality data anymore for new domains because these are just synthetically generated. So
Right, right. No, I mean, I think that's a good point when you think about, there's so much data being generated from the output of, folks just talking to GPT and so forth. And then that data is getting fed back into the model. It's like a human equivalent would be like cannibalism, right? You're like eating your own kind of kind, if you will. It's not going to turn out well, right? As you mentioned, you might go mad. But you were talking kind of about your journey in kind of industry, and obviously you've done a lot of work in research. Maybe if you could, tell the audience maybe one or two of your top papers, because obviously a ton of papers, ton of citations. What would you say you're most proud of in terms of your time kind of in research?
yeah. So like several impactful search papers, thanks to my co-authors and all the founders of the companies that gave me the opportunity to build those. Like I was just
Mm,
thinking about it yesterday that hey, the credits of all that work just doesn't go to me. Like they created
right.
an environment where I could create that impact, and looking forward
Mm,
to create that for the researchers at Anyreach as well. So one of the impactful papers was the N-best ASR transformer that I did when I was at Skit AI.
mm,
So even though it's like a super simple paper, but then had like impact of started we were running it in production for like millions of phone calls. So the
mm,
idea was like when you even talk to like humans, right? There's going to be an aspect of confusion in terms of what did the user actually say, right? What is the person actually saying?
mm,
Mainly when you're talking about proper names or words, right? Like for example, you go to a boba tea store and then you're gonna
mm,
tell some fancy boba tea name. There are chances that even a human wouldn't get it in the first attempt. It'd be, or it could sound very similar to some other weird words. But
mm,
they are smart enough to understand that, oh, in this context of the boba tea store, this is what this guy is going to be talking about. Instead of
mm,
asking you a stupid question about like something that it sounds very similar to something that's out of context, and ask you like,
mm,
oh, sorry, we are not into like into some other weird word or something there, right?
mm,
So then I was like, well, when I was like walking around one of the lakes in Bangalore, I was thinking about this problem that hey, this confusion that happens in speech recognition is such a huge problem and irritates users.
mm,
Is there a way to just dump that problem back to the model itself that hey, you know what, I'm not sure, man, we have some confusion here, you figure it out and you answer, okay? so
mm,
so that's where we came up with this nbest asr transformer. What does nbest mean is like when your speech recognition recognizes hypothesis, right? Hypothesis basically the transcript. It can also give you like 10 possible transcripts or 20 possible transcripts according to your configuration, and it'll say
mm,
that these are 20 possible things that the user could have told here. All of it,
mm,
it looks equally plausible to me, and I don't know, you need to figure it out. Then you give these 20 possible things to another transformer model, and then you say, hey, this is my context of the conversations, these are the 20 plausible things he told, could you tell me what is the intention of the user and what are the keywords that I need to be looking at?
mm,
This boom was like super useful, that the system started being super robust to like errors from the speech recognizer, and then we could work with so many different type of speech recognition models.
mm,
And then we built this on top of Meta's model XLM Roberta. This was
mm.
in 2020. Some of the, when I say this model's name, some of them say, oh, that seems like like a
Ancient history, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a history. It's history. It's like so old. So using that model, this idea immediately could be applied to like 5 languages in India, 5 plus languages. I was like,
Mm.
boom. Just imagine like doing error correction in like, 5 to 6 languages in India. In several languages, even I don't speak or I don't read. I
Right.
can only speak them. So then how do you make this whole stuff work, right? It's one thing. And the other thing in with respect to India is like even like what we are also having these challenges with a couple of Spanish plus English agents at Anyreach, like Spanglish agents. So similar
Mm.
in India, like code switching or like mixing English with your native language is a pretty common thing. So people
Mm.
are always going to use like 30% of English when they're speaking, right? Thanks to
Mm.
whatever colonial history and thing, but so they're going to be mixing it that way, and then doing speech recognition with that is like oh wow, it's almost an NP hard problem a lot of times, right? It's like you
Mm.
don't know what you're gonna get out of it. So
Mm.
this system like really made it like super easy with respect to error correction and all those different settings, and then we could go live. There was also a situation where we didn't have data annotators for some languages, and then the
Mm.
client was like, I need to go live today. Okay, I need to go live. I want you to support all 5 languages. And then, you're a startup. You can't be saying no to your high paying customers. You've been like, okay,
Right.
I need to figure a way out. So, so with Excelum Roberta, it's trained on like 100 languages. And then it can zero shot speak a language if you've trained it in another, like if you train it on a use case in English, it would be
Mm.
able to zero shot generalize to a couple of languages.
Mm.
So we had data annotators in 4 languages, and
Mm.
then we didn't have it for Telugu. And then we it was able to zero shot generalize to Telugu, and then we were able to hit it at least in the staging environment. It started speaking in Telugu without anybody in the company knowing Telugu. So
Wow.
so that was like, oh, this paper and its impact was paramount in helping us solve a lot of different customer use cases. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And you brought up a good point. Being in the U.S., we call it what the melting pot problem, right? Because there's just so many mixes of immigrants, learning English, speaking their native tongue, and it's such a hard problem to crack because if you can do it well in the U.S., you can probably do it anywhere else in the world because we have
Yeah.
every single type of person here in the U.S. in different languages, right? So.
Yeah.
And as you kind of think about your journey, now here at Anyreach and where AI is going, can you share what your thoughts are on like why now is the moment for, obviously AI and more specifically Anyreach?
Yeah, yeah. So one of the things that what I observed was through these projects, right? Like, let's take the same project that I was talking about, that we had 5 languages,
Mm.
and the client had about like 10 use cases in each language.
Mm.
That means it's 50 agents to be configured and 50 agents to be managed, like like
Mm.
maintained, that because the changes used to keep flowing in, like business changes, like requirements changes, or their like their products change, and you need to
Mm.
go and manually maintain 50 agents. I said, I started losing it. I started cycling, I started swimming, I started doing so many things to start being sane. I started losing it. I was like, and think about it. They're not just one client. Like, as a startup, if you want to make unit economic sense and you want to scale, you have 10 clients like that. That is like
Mm.
500 agents.
Right, right.
500 agents that need to be maintained, configured, and improved. I was like, doing this manually is almost impossible. But
Right.
then the reality is like, money is the king. So obviously you maintain the agents of the clients who pay you a lot more, because that's how business happens, right?
Right.
So it's like, this is not right. That, see, what is happening is, today when you call a business, a human picks the call. You might have a delay in reaching a human, or you might not get an answer. But then as long
Mm.
as you reach the business, you can be assured that you're going to be handled to a decent extent by a human.
Mm.
But then now what's happening is people are quickly changing it to voice agents, right? Like they're like,
Mm.
hey, deploying it. They don't test it properly, or these systems are not properly maintained and improved. I was like, hey, this is a huge problem. That what is going to quickly happen is all your businesses around are going to have voice agents, but these agents are going to make such type of weird mistakes and not going to be helpful in weird ways that
Mm.
it's going to create so much confusion in the society suddenly.
Mm.
I was like, hey, this is a huge problem. And at the same time, we want to give the best experience to all these businesses, and we can also not do it manually, right?
Right.
Like you cannot say that, hey, we are going to be super nice and we are going to run it like a non-profit, and yeah, we be the ones that work extra hard, and
Yeah.
go talk to all the people out there and say, hey, this is a cost that you need to work for free, and then come do it. That means the only way we can solve this problem is to directly learn from humans and not involve engineers in creating and maintaining AI. Is what I realized, that the technology now, at least thanks to the way in which how the LLM models objective functions are, the way it learns and trains, is that today we don't need data annotators, we need more of data validators. Like creating data, there are so many ways to like create data, and you can also collect it from human demonstrations. And then the way the objective functions of the LLMs work, right? So they go through this phase called supervised fine tuning, where you're given the input and then you can generate either the response or the API calls, right? This style of training, if you have demonstration data, you can directly do it. You don't really need somebody to do it. So before LLMs, we had models like the BERT and others, which were basically classification models. They couldn't directly go to response generation. They were not generative natively. So because of that, you needed intermediate supervision, that you had to be like, you know break down a complex problem into sub problems, and suddenly for the sub problems you don't have data. And for the sub problems you hire about 200, 300 data annotators, and then they try to crack each of the sub problems, and then they bring in all the errors from their side, because humans hardly agree on labels. There's this whole, what we call as the inter annotator agreement score, right? Like that is like a huge problem in like systems. That was one of the reasons that we found it extremely hard to like maintain agents. It's like, the person in language A thinks that it should be doing this, and the person in language B is thinking this, and you mix all of the data and you train, and then you're like, it's not doing things that are expected. There's something random happening there.
Yeah, you got garbage in, garbage out, right? Yeah.
Garbage in, garbage out. So I think, with the thanks to the way the LLM's objective functions are, right? Even with respect to giving the reinforcement learning by human feedback. Of course, there is a bunch of research to be done. I think one of the key areas that people are still trying to track is like, hey, if you have an entire phone call and then you're given a feedback that, hey, that was a great call, that wasn't a great call. How do you then back propagate this feedback at a call level into the, improving the agent, is like an active area of research. I think people are still trying to figure it out. But then at least at like sub parts of the call, you can take feedback to automatically update agents. And also you can just do your task the way you're doing it, just continue talking. And then you get this type of like dual channel call recordings, and then you can just create agents. So that's when I felt, hey, that's the right way, because that's the only way that we can create high quality agents to every single business. The laundry mart near your home to the biggest hospital would both be using agents that are of the same level of quality. Yes. I mean, like each one has a different type of value add, so you charge
Right.
them differently, or each one has different level of volume, so that can be a difference. But it's kind of stupid to think that, oh, the laundromat bot is like extra stupid. Okay, your the bot from your hospital sounds like really smart, but the laundromat bot doesn't understand shit. Okay, so
You
but
actually bring up a really funny kind of topic. When you think about wealth disparity, that's been kind of like a hot, political topic of like, oh, the rich are getting more rich and the poor are getting more poor.
yeah,
And it's almost like, there's a whole economy for AI if that was the case, right? Where
yeah,
the rich companies have amazing AI, and
yeah,
then the poor, companies, or, the ones that don't have as much money
yeah,
will have a lower quality AI. And even
yeah,
in the AI world, now there's a wealth disparity, which it really shouldn't, right?
yeah,
Because
yeah. It
technology should be easily, readily available, and everyone should get the same kind of service, if you will. So,
Absolutely, absolutely. And so for this, if you ask this to like Sam Altman or Ilias or others, what they're going to be saying is, what was OpenAI? OpenAI is AI for everyone, and we're trying to create these foundation models that would work equally well for everyone. But then there's another problem is, yeah, it works equally well, but is it actually representing their business the right way? Is it like kind of like mixing up everything together, right? Like
right.
think about this, that you go to a bar and then you try to have certain type of drinks, right? Like you like this drink A, drink B and stuff. But then suddenly you go to the bar after 2 weeks and then they've mixed up all the drinks together. Okay. There are only cocktails now.
Well, you're gonna get real drunk, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's one thing. But it's like, hey, there's only cocktails there, and then you're like, you ask for like, hey, like, yeah, I want to like try out that old monk or something, like, they're like, no, 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 just have this drink, it also has old monk in it. It sounds, it's almost similar to old monk or something like that. So now you're gonna be like, or there's a way in which if you mix it up this way, you can now it'll taste similar to old monk. You're gonna be
Mm.
like, hey, why did you first mix it up in the first place, man?
Right.
Then now you need to do all sort of hacks to bring it back to.
Just give me my whiskey, please. I don't want you to come up with a concoction, right? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's what is happening with with OpenAI and Claude and all the other proprietary models, is like they have data annotators and validators across the globe, and we don't know where the data is coming from exactly. So
Mm.
you don't, I mean, like, like for each different use case language, you have people training it across the globe, and then
Mm.
this is all getting mixed up into the same model. The
Right.
the only way to recover back to the use case is to find that magical prompt, and they
Mm.
say that they have different type of prompting guidelines and others to like bring it back.
Mm.
So now the question is like, yeah, now you've made it into a search problem. Very nice. Okay, so now search is like, prompt search has become a big challenge. And then,
Mm.
like, would we be able to recover it? And also, once we get a magical prompt, the only way people check it is like they make 5 calls and they just do something called vibe testing today. I'm
Mm.
like, dude, this is so weird. See, you can vibe code, you can do vibe marketing, you can do vibe, podcast, you can do vibe whatever. But vibe testing, that
Mm.
is not good for the world. That means you just made 2 3 calls and you think it's great, and then you deploy it for your business, only to
Mm.
realize that, oh, somebody has to call and tell you that, your bot, it's really got a bit sassy off late. I don't feel like actually talking to, a person anymore, in the specific type of dialect and region and stuff. So
Right.
this is what is going to happen is, see, if you think about it, people never are interested in AI. What people are interested in is making services super cheap and super fast and accessible. Like,
Mm.
people want to experience, like, see, human lifespan is only about like whatever 70 80 years. It's at all times humans are trying to maximize their experience. They want everything instantaneously. They want everything super quick, and they want much much more value for the same money. So
Mm.
that means you want to checkpoint the world the way it is, and then, you want AI to do it the same way, and not
Mm.
like AI to create altogether a new world and say, you know what, I created new dishes, new drinks, everything for you, and then all this is, so cheap and so efficient. I'm like, dude, you just changed the world. You just change everything, and it's no more the same way the things were. So I think there's a huge responsibility that we have in preserving our culture, language, identity, while making things cheaper and faster. And I think
Mm.
Anyreach has like a amazing opportunity at this intersection. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No, well, thanks for sharing that background. I mean, as we kind of segue into the technology and science that we're building here at Anyreach, can you maybe tell our audience, what are some of the leading research that we're kind of looking into, and how does that differentiate in practical applications compared to everything else in the market?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. For sure. So one of the key things, as I said, in the data centric era is like we are
Mm.
pioneering a lot in spontaneous data collection. So if you see, one thing that people say is like, the AI is talking a lot, and, like, it's just going on a monologue. But think
Mm.
about this, that even when you have deep conversations with your friend, like, I mean, even this conversation is going a little deep. Like, you let the person speak for like 2 3 minutes, but then you can listen to them speaking. But think
Right.
about this, that you cannot listen to AI speaking nonstop for 3 minutes, because it's like, dude, I cannot handle this stuff. Like, just be to the point. What is
Yeah.
the reason is you feel like AI is reading to you for 3 minutes. You don't feel like AI is actually talking to you.
Mm.
The reason this happens is most of the companies out there, let it be 11 Labs, Play AI, OpenAI, have been trained on like YouTube and podcast, like
Mm.
videos and others, where, like, the same thing. The way I'm talking to Richard now is not the same way we would talk, over phone calls. At least
Right.
when we are sane and when we are not high or something, right? So like, so you're like, the way you talk is not the same thing that you talk over podcasts.
The more you mention these things, the audience is gonna think we're alcoholics or drunk. But anyway, so besides the point. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
yeah. So like, So we are trying to create spontaneous data. What we
Mm,
mean is like if an expert were to take those type of phone conversations, we're trying to create like conversational data stuff, like sort of role play, scenarios, and then like user simulators that we have in which
mm,
we just don't make people like read stuff. We just make them like act. That's one thing. And the
mm,
other one is like for those clients who already have existing, like call centers and they have call recordings, our technology is about like directly how do you use the data in the wild, right?
mm.
Like you can see Google and OpenAI talking about, hey, we are running out of internet. Like at one of the events in SF, like someone from Google told me like, hey, we are having a problem, like we are running out of internet. I'm like, what is running out of internet? I have heard of like I'm out of, like I'm not able to connect to internet, or like internet is a bit patchy or something. But for the
Yeah.
first time, I'm hearing a word like we are running out of internet. That means these guys think they've trained on everything that's there on the internet, and then now they are
Mm,
like, oh, we are training now on the Gemini's output to improve Gemini.
right.
I'm like, hey, okay, that's amazing. But what about all the data that's there in the head of people? It's not like
Right.
everything that people have written it down, right?
Right.
Today, your foundation models only know what people have written it down,
Mm.
not things that they hold as knowledge in their head.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
how?
I call that the unspoken words, right? Like, there's so
Yeah,
many words or thoughts that we have,
yeah,
but we all have a filter. We don't actually let all of it out, right? So,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. A lot of it out, or for specific business scenarios that's not like a public information and that data is not there. So now it's about creating data that never existed for certain
Mm,
businesses, right? Like for example, like for certain schools, like we don't have the data of how they're talking to parents, right?
mm,
The data is limited, right? And it's like something somewhere within their closed systems. That's one thing.
mm,
And also, maybe we don't have the data of think they want to create AI that can help parents like educate their kids a little better at home. Like
mm,
they want to give a bunch of like useful tips to parents on like how to do home tutoring.
mm.
Nobody created such type of data because we never had such type of phone conversations, or such conversations are not something that were captured properly. So
Right.
creating this type of first creating the data that never existed instead of trying to stitch it together synthetically. Yes, you can write a prompt. Yes, you can try to like stitch it together with a bunch of off the shelf text to speech models, and then
Mm,
the way it sounds is like it's fine, but it's not good enough, right? Like it,
mm.
it doesn't feel actually that human like touch isn't there.
Right,
So
right.
that is one of the things that we have seen amazing success with our clients in creating this type of spontaneous data that we put in the special effort to create for their specific business, which they wouldn't
Mm,
get off the shelf from from proprietary models and others. And then
right.
our technology of we adapt all the different components in our system like automatically based on this demonstration two channel recording data, right?
Mm,
So we have like multiple speech LLMs working together, like
mm,
you can think of like a wolf pack. Okay, these are all crazy smart LLMs working together. Like
mm,
what we are pioneering is something called the agentic voice AI system. Like we have
mm,
seen this in the text space that you have multiple agents like talking to each other. But think
mm,
about like what if multiple speech LLMs spoke to each other, that they are able to accurately detect above turn detection.
mm,
They know when to start speaking, when to stop talking, and they also know when to call which APIs, and then they are
mm,
planning, and then there are models that are instruction tuned to generate speech like with the correct emotions and stuff there. So that's what we are seeing is giving us much more amazing results as compared to even like OpenAI voice mode, or
mm,
where the Gemini Live or others, because it's not easy to adapt those systems for a business use case. Because I mean, you
mm.
cannot go to the business and say, "Yeah, give me 10,000 call recordings, and then let's talk back in a year." Okay, they want to go live in a month at least. Like they want to go live in a couple of weeks, right?
Right,
So
right.
you need to make it work in a bunch of like handful of phone calls, like as less as like 30 to 40 calls to like maybe at max around 200 300 calls is all that you could expect from a business to practically collect, and then your
Mm,
AI should be created. Then how do you
mm,
go from that to a bot that accurately takes turns and does better
mm,
pronunciation and stuff without somebody sitting and saying, like I see a bunch of speech companies still hiring linguists, which is great, but then it's not you thinking that you're going to assign a linguist to every single business use case and say, hey, you know what, I'm going to go in and figure out what are the exact phonetic sequence that you need to be following to
Right.
pronounce that particular word right. I'm like, dude, wait, that
So
doesn't
it's an
happen.
impossible task for sure.
Impossible. Right, yeah.
Yeah. And so, there's been a kind of a hot topic around AI, around like ethical and safe use.
Yeah.
From your perspective, what does that mean? And then how is that translating to what we're building here at Anyreach?
Yeah. So one of the key things is the data ownership aspects, right? Like one thing is people just trying to train on random YouTube data and podcast data. Think about it that somebody just came into your home and just took away a few things without your permission, you know and
Right.
then but then, yeah, there are a lot of people like Sam Altman saying that, hey, we cannot train data AI models without training on you know proprietary systems, right? That is also trying to say, like, then it's like all the guys who are breaking into cars in SF trying to say that, you know what, we can't eat without breaking into cars. Yeah, okay, amazing, amazing. That's a point taken. Yes, please continue to do it.
Yeah.
It's like, what? How is that different from saying, hey, without really, taking proprietary data and stuff without asking people is not, we can't do something. So then
Right.
what we thought was, in order to be ethical, from at least from our standpoint, right? Like, of course, the systems that we use and stuff, like, we have whatever influence we have on the world, we are trying to ask people to be ethical to the extent. But then when it comes to our practice, we do pay our voice actors, we do take their consent, that we hire them, we pay them on an hourly basis for the data, and then we get them all their consent, and then we create the data that we need, and then we adapt
Mm.
our systems.
Mm.
So all the data that comes in has been created for these use cases in a complete ethical and legal manner, instead of
Mm.
something that, hey, we just trained on randomly on YouTube, we don't talk about it outside. Okay, kind of stuff
Yeah.
like that. Also,
I
there is,
yeah.
yeah,
No, I was going to say that's a pretty good point because, with an enterprise, there's always going to be a risk that whatever solution you deploy, is there, a compliance legal perspective? And if
yeah,
you're just using kind of out of box LLMs or any sort of like APIs off the shelf where they haven't gone through that, strict
yeah,
process of getting ethical and safe data, it might come back and bite you, right? Maybe
yeah,
it's a
yeah.
copyright infringement, maybe it's some other thing. So yeah, no, that's a super good point, and not to toot our own horn, but we do put a lot of details in making sure that the data we're training on is with consent and all the guardrails in place. So.
Absolutely, absolutely. And yeah, now talking on the safety aspect, which is also another pretty important
Mm.
thing, is like, yeah, like, people do this vibe test, and then like deploy all these amazing agents, and then
Mm.
you ask them what is accuracy, they're gonna be like, yeah, it's at 80% or something like that. Now my question is, what happens to the 20%, man?
Mm.
What happens to those people who fall into the 20% use case because they have a different type of
Well,
an
if you fall
accent?
at 20%, you're the 100%, and you're, right? It's like, hey, I got the wrong thing, right? So,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So it's like, with 20% of them, like, not getting the type of experience that they expected, right? So
Mhm.
then what we are trying to do is, because at least with a lot of our enterprise customers, we try to see to that they have the human fallback, and then we are doing a
Mhm.
lot of research in terms of like identifying that, hey, the person is getting a bit frustrated, okay?
Mhm.
Because a lot of cases you're calling in for mission critical scenarios, like it's an emergency situation, or you're like, you logged out of your home, okay, and then you need a locksmith, and then you're trying to call a voice agent, and then it's mispronouncing your name, and it's not recognizing what you're saying, and then um, you saying, I'm looking to talk, I'm looking to find someone, a locksmith, to like help me with my home, and then
Right.
and then the bot keeps saying that, sorry, I am not Mr. Smith, I don't know whom you're trying to talk to. I'm like, dude, I'm trying to get a locksmith, I'm trying to get somebody to like unlock my door.
Well, what's another interesting use case there is like, one of the visions we have is to be the gold standard for toll-free numbers. And what better place to do that would be like the emergency numbers like 911, right?
Yeah,
But in
yeah,
order to do something like that and have it safe and make it perform well,
yeah,
you know, it's going to have to work, right? If someone's calling in and saying, hey, someone's breaking into my home, I need help right away. And your voice agent's like, oh, I can't help you. Or it says like, the wrong thing. Oh, is this your address? And it goes through a loop of trying to ask your address for like 10 minutes.
yeah, yeah.
You can imagine what kind of experience that would be, right? So, Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Mainly people are, definitely underplaying the challenge that is there in capturing
Mm,
entities like address and names, and these are the
mm,
cases that current voice agents fail at, right?
mm,
Like there are this 20% cases where it's not. So you can do an amazing demo, and then you can convince the founders and say like, yes, this is great for your company and get it deployed. But then
mm.
you're going to have the challenges when that 20% of the cases are going to like affect their business and revenue, and then they're going to come back and say, hey, wait, I just came out of my Q2 revenue analysis, and then since we have deployed the voice agent, I can see a 10% dip in my revenue.
Right.
What's happening? I don't know where something is happening. I want you to look at this ASAP. Otherwise, I'm going to roll back to my human call center.
Right. Right.
That's when you know whom to call. you know, which company to call.
You're
So
gonna call Anyreach,
yeah, yeah.
probably.
So we are like trying to pioneer this proactive call transfer technology.
Mm,
So through my years of research in like speech emotion understanding and paralinguistics research, we are trying to
mm,
like see it's a combination of things, right? The user is getting frustrated that
mm,
the agent is not being helpful enough and taking the address or other things. At the same time, it's also about you can see the frustration from the user speech, plus also you can see the conversations going in a loop, plus
mm.
like it's saying the same thing over and over again, and then hey, you need human help here.
Right.
And then we detect that, and then we have a critic system that we are being in place that says, hey, you know what, you need to be getting human help here, and then it gets transferred to the human
The
agent.
appropriate
And
folks,
then
right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And then and then we have like we're pioneering a lot of accent translation technology there, so that
Mm,
like it's not like you get a human and then now you're like, oh shit, you gotta understand the accent of the human now. Earlier there was a problem that the bot cannot understand you. Now you got transferred to an agent, and now there's a reverse problem. The agent can understand you, but you can no more understand the agent. so,
right.
so you're like, dude, this when would this ever change, right? So that's where like we are trying to have some real-time accent translation systems in place where we also make
Mm,
that sound really good. And then
mm,
you know what? As soon as this call is completed, all of the training data goes back
mm.
into our system, and then our research team looks at that and then keeps improving our agents. So that
Right.
way we don't want, at least in cases where it's possible, like for mission critical cases, our clients do have a fallback call center. Even in that case, if you're going to screw up, that is super wrong. Or in other businesses where they might not have human fallback, you need to be saying that, you know what, sorry, I think I'm not able to help you out here. You know
Mm,
what, I'm going to like notify our team to give you a call back at the earliest. And
mm,
then you just capture that, and then you notify through SMS, email, everything. You call the founder that, hey, we have a situation here. You have a potentially very good customer, whose lifetime value is crazy. You don't want to lose him. Like,
mm,
I need you to call him at the earliest. And then
mm.
they're super happy. Like, founders love their customers because it's taken so much effort to get them, right? Like, you have
Right.
1,000, 2,000 customers, 3,000 customers is what several businesses have. And in that
Mm.
3,000, every month you start losing 10 because of your voice agent. In no time you're gonna like spiral down to be like, you don't even know how you lost it, but you lost it. Yeah.
Right, right. And kind of maybe switching topics a little bit. Obviously, the voice space has been getting pretty noisy. Tons of company across both the application layer, infrastructure, and so on and so forth. And as you kind of think about all the players coming in the market, and even where the technology is going, right? The first version
Yeah.
of voice being ASR, LLM, TTS,
Yeah.
and then now it's speech-to-speech models.
Yeah.
What do you think everyone's getting wrong? And where do you think the industry is going to evolve into in the next, say, 3 to 5 years?
Yeah. 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 It's an amazing point. So one thing is definitely the evaluation is something that we are, evaluation and tracking metrics is not something that we are doing a good enough job on.
Mm,
Um, and also the industry is not focusing on the turn taking aspect, you know
mm,
that people are thinking that it's trivial to like clone human conversation. They are like, yeah, voice AI is done, now next is robotics, right? I'm like,
mm,
dude, wait up. Where is it solved? Like, see, if you see with Gemini, and if you think with OpenAI's voice mode, like the real-time API and stuff, it is about like, yes, you do have this large LLMs that have been created as a single system that does everything, right? From API calling to, speech generation and stuff. The aspect that is super hard there is like, how do you do turn taking now? Still,
mm,
the aspect is about like you have a voice activity detection that it still feels like playing chess.
Mm.
That you need to finish talking, and then yes, in 300 milliseconds the agent starts talking, and then
Mm.
you just say something like, you just start back channeling like how you tell your friend, whoa, that's so cool. And then think about like your friend is telling you a cool plan, and then you're just saying that cool, cool, nice, and then he keeps stopping, and then he's like, what did you say, what did he say, what did he say, dude? That is such an irritating experience.
Right.
So a full duplex conversation capability is something that is needed,
Mm.
and people are not underestimating the need for it. Like, I'm thinking that only if everything comes together perfectly, people are going to feel like they're talking to a human.
Right.
There is not a way of you trying to think that, hey, I'm going to deploy an okayish agent and eventually will iteratively improve it. It's not the same as your Android app and iOS app that I'm going to add features, like iteratively.
Right.
So you only want to have amazing duplex conversations. And for those conversations that you're not able to handle really well, you should transfer to a human and keep learning from humans.
Mm.
Because what is happening is that instead of that, you transfer to your bot and you don't even have good training data now. Two problems. Dude, your
Right.
bot neither did a good job, and the customer is having a poor experience, and also you lost the training data opportunity to actually handle it.
Mm.
So we need to look at those subset of use cases that can have complete full duplex experience, and
Mm.
you compare it towards, like, you take a phone conversation of how an expert handles that call and how your bot is handling it. Only if it is something that's almost passing the Turing test, you deploy. And
Mm.
for rest of the use cases, you keep working towards making it as human like as possible, and you deploy it.
Mm.
So
Mm.
for this is where, like, we are saying that all these different techniques of evaluation, and how we compare against experts, and also giving a lot of respect to where the data is coming from.
Mm.
So people are thinking that, hey, proprietary models are going to be doing everything, foundation model is going to everything. The only thing that we need to learn is prompt engineering, and we don't even need to like collect data of our own. My point is, wait, isn't there something wrong, man? When is the knowledge cut off of these models, and when were they last trained? Like,
Mm.
either real-time API may be having a knowledge cutoff of like 5 months before, or like, if you see GPT-4, or like, maybe it's a 2023 cut knowledge cutoff, 2024 knowledge cutoff, like different things. Are you trying to tell me that the businesses won't evolve? Are you trying to think that our language, our culture, our styles won't keep evolving? It keeps changing
Mm.
every 6 months.
Mm.
Then how does it automatically adapt to changing times? Are you trying to say that, yeah, we will go in and keep changing prompts, and how would you know what prompt to change?
Right.
And how are you going to do it for all 200 customers that you're going to have?
Mm.
And for each of those customers, you have 10 agents. So 2000 agents of manually going through calls and adapting. So
Yeah.
that's where I think people need to take it a much more seriously. The voice agents, people are trying to play it a bit, like, hey, this is such a cool technology, hey, this
Mm.
just works. But my point is, when you start deploying it for real world businesses, you want to
Mm.
take additional responsibility that because of you, somebody could have gone to the emergency room instead of actually getting help from a nearby provider. Or it could have been a simple thing that he could have just bought it like ibuprofen in nearby Walgreens, but you messed up, hallucinated, and got, sent him to the ER, and at the ER for 5 hours because of a single turn mistake of your bot.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm. No, I mean, I think that's definitely a great point. Responsible voice AI is going to be key, and the current paradigm of heavy prompt engineering, as you mentioned, and the amount of variables just is exponential in terms of the operations and maintenance of these bots, and it's not even good quality because
Yeah.
it's like finding a needle in a haystack, right? Trying to fix a bot in production, and obviously that's going to impact the business long term, and you don't want that.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, no, I mean, Karthik, it was a pleasure having you on. I'm sure the audience is, gonna love this deep dive into, some of the tech that we're building here at Anyreach. If the folks want to find you, where can they, maybe find your research, your social media, or any sort of
Yeah.
connections? Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, you can just look up Karthik Ganesan on LinkedIn. I'm
Mm.
on LinkedIn and on Google Scholar as well. Like, uh, yeah, you can just search Karthik Ganesan. Yeah, so that's it's the name. It's just the name that you want to like quote on. Yeah, I'm pretty active on LinkedIn and on and publishing my papers on Google Scholar and stuff. Yeah, so
And for the audience, we will have Karthik's links in the blog post, so feel free to go there and check it out. Well, Karthik, it was a pleasure having you on the Anyreach Roundtable podcast. Thanks again for joining on, and appreciate
yeah,
you
yeah.
sharing your insights.
Absolutely, absolutely. I hope the audience will have an amazing time, going through this and listening to it. Yeah, just keep following us for amazing updates. Hope our agents talk to you soon. Yeah.
All right, sounds
Okay.
good. Thanks, Karthik.
Yeah. Thank
Bye.
you.